are tuned in to your dose of positivity. I am Marlene Motivates, and as I always say, just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
Be encouraged, be inspired, be yourself, you will survive. Just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
And to gain further support, join my channel membership. Hey everyone, it's Marlene of Marlene Motivates. Welcome. I am your channel for all things positive, inspirational, life lessons, mindset shifting. If it's your first time here, subscribe to this channel. I love to have you over here as a part of the Motivators family. And to support this channel, you can do so with Cash App, super chats, channel membership, and also the app. The link is below for the Amazon wish list. You're welcome to. So thank you everybody who is here watching live in the public. Welcome in the mother and daughter duo. How are you doing? Welcome. And the copper tone. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you being here, and happy Wednesday. And on top of all of that, happy Wednesday and happy November. We're in a new month now. So let's hope that this month will be something wonderful for each and every one of you who is listening right now, live or in the replay. And if you're on the replay, gang, as always, leave me a comment in the comment section below. So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about this topic right here. Let me put it up. Finding it hard to say I love you. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. So let me first start off by saying that for some, it is so difficult to say those three words, I love you. And there's various reasons why some are that way and some struggle to say those words, I love you, because of various things. But the most important thing is for us to realize that if it's us and we are struggling to say those words, I love you, we get to the source of why. Why is it a struggle for me to say I love you? Why is it a challenge? Is it something that I have been through? And then what are we going to do about it? Okay. Yes. Good afternoon to everyone who is here. And hit the like, please. I'd really appreciate it. So, first, let's say that when we don't say those words, I love you, to somebody that we care about, it brings a coldness to the relationship. And it causes a bridge, a rift to happen, and you feel some sort of disconnection to the person. So, if you really want to be close with somebody, even if it's hard, if it's difficult, it doesn't have to be something every day, but we should strive to say those words, I love you, to the people who matter to you. And I am saying this from a space of I wish I had the opportunity to go back in time and to say I love you to my parents while they were still here. I didn't because I don't know, it's just something in my mind. I always thought that they would always be around. I would get a chance later in a few months, in a few years, but those days never came for me. So I want better for all of you motivators. I want if you have somebody in your life that's important to you, um, your relatives, your significant other, your children, um, your friend. Make sure that you are letting the ones that are important to you know that you really do care about them. Don't take a moment for granted. Don't take people for granted. Don't take time. Don't think that you have time. As human beings, a lot of times we tend to think that we will always have time. I'll tell you later. Or another thing is, we'll say, they already know how I feel about them. And while that may be true, they may know, but it brings you closer to individuals when you say those three words, I love you. Okay? Hey, Shayla, how are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you being here. Got a member in the house. So, we don't want to have coldness within our relationships, whether it be romantic, whether it be a relative, whether it's a friend. When you really do care about somebody and love them, we have to try to find ways to do things sometimes that we don't always want to do. It may be hard, it may be difficult, it may be stressful for us. It may not be something that you may like, right? We may not like to say those words, I love you, because of some of the things that we're going to talk about today. All right. And I appreciate you too as well, Shayla. I appreciate you too. Hey, Liz, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Wednesday to you and happy November, everybody. Yes, that's love. That's the most important thing. And I can tell you that coming from a space of not hearing it for myself, I'm definitely a person that has to say the words, I love you, because I didn't receive it. So I kind of feel that sometimes I overcompensate because of what happened to me. Yeah, and that's the hard part, Shay. Some don't know what love is. They don't know what it is to begin with, much less to say it. So we're going to get into some of that. So, um, another point that I have here before I start the 4 points that I'm going to bring to you guys, um, it is normal to have difficulty. It's normal to have a difficult time expressing your feelings. It's normal to have it, for it to be difficult in saying those words. But what is not normal is making excuses. What is not normal is making the excuses why I don't say I love you. It's normal to struggle sometimes to say the words, but it's not normal to make the excuse and cover up for what you are not doing. So, motivators, I encourage each and every one of you, no matter what you have been through in your life, no matter what it is that you're going through, expressing to the people that you care about that you love them, that they matter to you, that they are important. Show gratitude and appreciation. It brings closeness. Now, I will say something. When I thought of the title for this topic, what I was thinking is we live in a society that is cold. It's cold, it's mean, it's dark, it's ruthless, it's underhanded, it's wicked, but the people that you care about, they need to be certain how you feel about them. It doesn't matter what's going on the outside. in your home atmosphere, with the people that you care about, with the people that you love. They shouldn't be guessing or wondering, whether it be siblings, um, friends, whether it be your spiritual brothers and sisters, whether it be whoever you are to somebody. If somebody matters to you, you need to tell them, even if it's hard, even if you have to say every single time, it's hard for me to express how I feel, but I'm going to put in the effort. I just want you to know that I love you. That heartfelt expression of saying it, even if you struggle through the words to say, but you have to keep trying until it's normal for you. Like I was saying earlier, it's normal to have a difficult time expressing how you feel. But what is not normal is sitting on that and letting it be an excuse. An excuse is not good enough motivators, because we know better. We know better. We know that we like to hear the words I love you. We know we like to hear it. So the same thing for others, even if it's hard for us, whether we are male or whether we are female, we still need to tell the people that we care about that we love them. Okay? Welcome in, Puzzle Pieces. How are you doing? Uh, I so grateful that you're here, and welcome in. Got a member in the house. How are you doing? Happy November to you, Puzzle Pieces. Happy November. Yes, Shayla. Yes, yes, yes. It's hard. It's hard to express things, but got to speak about it. That's what we do over here on this channel. We talk about those hard topics, those hard discussions. Yes, that's healthy. And I realize that sometimes we struggle. We don't know how, but it's not good enough to just say, I don't know how to express it. So, or it makes me uncomfortable to express it and think that that's good enough. It was hard coming from a family of love and then marrying into a toxic family. I can't even imagine, Shay. Yeah, when you come from love and then you experience toxic, that's difficult. It really is. Hey, Tamika, how are you doing? Got a mod in the house. Really appreciate you being here. Happy November to you, Tamika. And yeah, some find it very hard to say I love you. So let's get into the 4 points. One, two, yeah, the 4 points that I have. Okay, why it could be hard for some to say I love you. Point number one, because of cultural norms. So based on your culture, your background of your family. Maybe it was not something that happened in your culture. People don't express that from the culture. You know, that's not normal. That seemed as weird or strange, or it just doesn't happen, or things that you just don't talk about. But just because something was a way in your culture, it does not mean that you have to make generate another generation that is broken and not doing what we need to do. Someone has to speak up and say it's time to make changes. It's time for us to bring warmth into our families. It's time for us to bring warmth back into friendships. It's time to check on one another. Say, how are you doing? Be supportive. But it has to start with someone. And I always say, strong families make strong friendships, make strong communities. And if it does not start at home with one or two people, then it spreads to your children, other loved ones, your friends, and then next thing is a whole group of people strongly united in love. But it takes a few people to say, no matter what I have been raised in, no matter what the environment was at home, I'm not going to go along with the cultural norms. I'm going to express myself. I'm going to talk about how I feel, no matter how hard and difficult it may be. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, Eastad, how are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Happy Wednesday. And November to you and everybody in the chat. If everybody could hit the like, I'd really appreciate it. So that was point number one. Depending on your cultural background, and it's not just because my family background, is Jamaican culture, and it's usually not very where they express it with affection or express it with the word saying I love you. They're more of a culture that will be like, because I make sure you have food to eat and I make sure you have clean clothes and a roof over your head. For them, they say that that's love, not with words. They go more by action, but it's important to have a combined thing that's healthy. And maybe your parents, grandparents, or whoever raised you didn't know about these things, but now we're more mature. We're learning about our emotions and learning to get it in check and showing appreciation, gratitude, and strength, because there is strength in loving your relatives. There's strength in loving the person you're in a relationship. There's strength in loving your friends and expressing it and not holding back from doing it because it makes you feel uncomfortable, or it's something that you just don't like, or for you it's not something important. Just because maybe something is not important for you, it does not mean that it's not important to another individual. We have to love others how they need to receive love. And there are some that is their love language. They must hear it. They must hear I love you to feel safe, to feel protected, to feel appreciated, to feel important. And it also affects some self-esteem. Okay. So let's go to point number two. Some find it hard to say I love you because your own family was not affectionate. Hmm. I think that that's something like, wow. It's so true that sometimes our relatives, the environment that you are around when you were raised up, it was not a loving atmosphere. It actually was toxic. It actually was dangerous, poisonous, very manipulative, vindictive, so much. 3:30, my shift begins. Oh, thank you so much, Eastad. Appreciate you popping in. I have a great rest of your day. I find it to be so hard, for so many to start something new when you're raised up, in a certain culture. You're raised up a certain way and not talking about things and holding things inside. It's hard for you to start, but just because you didn't have something when you were growing up as a child, it does not mean that we can't shift and change it. See, the change has to start within us, right? Okay. So, point number three. Some find it hard to say I love you because of poor communication. Many weren't raised having that sort of communication where you said, this is how I feel, this is what I need, this is what I'm going through. Not everybody had that. But in our romantic relationship with your children, with your friends, you can start a new norm of showing consideration, kindness, asking questions. If we don't ask how someone is doing, let's not be the ones that jump to the conclusions or make assumptions. We assume people are okay because we don't hear from them. Let's not be like that. Let's check on one another, show real, true kindness, consideration, and love for the people that we care about. And this is my fourth point. I'm going to put the link here in the chat for my co host to come up. Point number four, some find it hard to say I love you because of traumas. So if you have had some traumatic events, whether it be your childhood, whether it be previous relationships, whether it be friends, or maybe you were lived in an area where some traumatic events happened, in where you lived, um, and that kind of triggered you to shut down and not want to talk about feelings and your emotions. And for some, I will just say that some cultures it's looked down on, that when you talk about your emotions, how you're feeling, communication, it's just something like it's a big red X, like a no no. We don't talk about anything. We don't express love. We don't show affection. You don't do any of those things because it seemed weird and it's uncomfortable because they didn't do it. So they don't understand why you need to get affection. They don't understand why you need to hear the words, I love you. But it's very important to have that sort of warmth, to have that, the closeness to express those things, to show people appreciation and love, because you may never get a second opportunity. It's not to sound morbid or to think that way, but nobody knows. You never know how long you are going to get with the people that you care about and love. So while you have the time, express it, express yourself. And this one is important. This point, I can't ever say it enough. It is normal to have a difficult time expressing your feelings, but what is not normal is making excuses because it made you uncomfortable. So we have to want to make those sort of changes. So I see my co-host here in the background. Let's welcome Nexie to the show.
Hello, Marlene. Hi,
Hi,
chat.
how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just very excited,
Yes, I know.
but I have to be patient. That's all I have to say now. But
Yeah.
very good topic. Very good topic. You said something about uh, like cultural, right? Type of inability to say "I love you." Um, and also, you mentioned that they show you by providing for you. And it's funny because I come from a culture that is pretty much the same thing. I mean, they do say I love you. Moms, they do say sometimes I love you, but mostly is, the fact that you have a roof over your head. You have food every day, you go to school, I do this for you and do that for you. That should show you and should tell you, right, that I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people that is nice that you're saying this, because I've come around friends that tell their kids that, and I tell them in private, of course, not in front of their kids, that is good that you're providing, but that's part of your job. That's your job, right? You brought them into this world. Yeah, you're supposed to provide them. I said, but you're also supposed to tell them that you love them, because they don't say those words to their kids. And
Exactly.
I find it
Exactly.
kind of I find it kind of difficult to stand by and do nothing if it's a friend of mine, right? Because in that moment, and I've done this before, I've been at friends' house that, the kids are, kind of asking for that I love you, right? Reassurance when they come with good grades, or they do something good, and or, they're just looking for that word, and my friends cannot say it. And I'm like, you missed a good opportunity, right here, right now, to be able to utter those words and not feel uncomfortable. And they have told me, I don't know. I didn't grow up with it, so I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel it's needed. And I'm like, oh God,
Yeah, and it's so needed.
it is
So
very needed.
it's so needed. So I wanted to welcome Shay Love to the show. Welcome, Shay.
Hey, two of my favorite ladies, Marlene, Nexie. Hey, y'all. Hope y'all are doing good today.
Hi,
Doing
Shay.
well.
Hey, hey, this topic, another slamming topic. Marlene, you are always on it. Nexie, you were just making some really great, valid points now as well. I think what happens is, well, Marlene, of course, you've been making great, valid points ever since you came on, but as well, I'm sorry, no buts. Um, Witnessing someone who exhibits this type of behavior because of every point that Marlene hits, it's it kind of hits home different for me, because everything you ladies are mentioning here truly makes it hard for people to love. Even to say I love you, it even makes them hard to, I'm sorry, it makes it hard for them to accept love. And just like you were saying, Nexie, so many parents don't even tell their children that they love them. You know, I tell my children I love them so much to where I could be in the kitchen washing dishes and one of my babies walk up and say, "Hey, mommy." I'm like, "What, baby? I love you." And they don't want anything. You know, the more we pour out into our children, they will reciprocate and give it back. That's the lesson that a lot of parents miss. Children are there ready to be loved. They're really ready and willing to help. It's just a lot of times we don't extend it to them. That's why you'll have a child that's 10 years old. They don't know how to tie their shoe. Parents been tying their shoe their whole life, or you don't know how to properly bathe yourself. Your parent was still bathing you. We have to teach our children. So if we have to teach them the basics, guess what? We got to teach them love, and they need to see it as well. And it's just like Marlene said, the cultural influence is everything. Because if you came up in a home where you weren't told you were loved, there were no loving acts done towards you, the likelihood of you being a loving person is slim to none.
Yeah. Yes, and that's a good point, Shay. A lot of times we grow up in that culture or a background where we're not told by our parents that that we are loved, and then you grow up because you didn't get it, doing the same thing for your children, and it's like you make a generational curse of being broken and not saying I love you. So it becomes like a normal thing to not express yourself, to not communicate, to not feel close to your children or parents, not saying it to their children and vice versa. It's so important that we try.
Yeah, that we have to express as much as possible. And I find it, I do it, Marlene, even on grown-ups, that are my friends, even on people that have become close to me. I exercise that right. That's my right. I have it because it's mine. So I exercise that with them to say I love you, and I see that reaction sometimes, that weird reaction. But the funny thing is that the more they are around me, the more they eventually when I love you, or bye, and I love you, or even on text. So even when we're around are grown up already, to not saying the word, if you are constantly giving it to them, giving it back to them, even if they don't give it back to you, eventually they're gonna become comfortable with it. And I'm telling you, I've seen so many people that I work with and have become, like I said, close acquaintances, and some very, very good friends of mine that I have had to train that way. And I feel very happy when I see that maybe they're not doing it as often with their kids, but I see them giving it back to their grandkids, because it's important. Even though that person loves you, when they say those words, the reassurance you get, even on a bad day, that reassurance of, okay, I know that my mom got my back, but she just said she loved me, so I feel more powerful. I know my dad got my back, same goes for that. And but he said, hey, I love you, son, I love you, daughter, whatever. That makes them feel a lot more reassured of taking whatever problems or problem they have coming their way, to take it with more reassurance. And we can retrain adults as well, even if they don't give it back to us right away. Just saying it will allow them to process it, and understand that it's not something bad, that it's actually, if it makes you feel good, imagine how it's going to help with your family. So it is important
And
too, Marlene, and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, but it's just important for us to give it to everybody around us that we care for, because some people are not trained that way.
and even people we don't care for. See, that's the kicker there. See, that's the one we don't want to talk about. We have to we can distance ourselves from people, but we need to try our best to love people just, in general. And then on the flip side of what you were just saying, Nexie, I'm gonna tell you something. Some people are raised to where they may not, the I love you may not have been thrown around a lot, but there were so many loving acts. And let me explain that real quick. Some people, it isn't easy for them to say I love you, but you don't even have to they don't have to open their mouths to say it because their actions show in everything that they do. You see what I'm saying? See, some people toss the I love you around, and that leads to some crazy situations because that's not a word you want to throw around there. See, a lot of people will tell you that because it sounds good. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then, like I stated though, on the flip side, some people, their actions just scream, I love you. You know, it screams that. And going back real quick on what you said, Marlene, about the generational curses, just to kind of like shed a light on it, the way we stop those generational curses is that parent who didn't come from that loving, background, or that loving cultural, or that loving, home environment. What happens is that child grows up, they pick up all of those same traits, and then they start a family. What
Right.
happens is that same learned behavior gets passed along. And so we have to make sure that we're in our right states of mind, men and women, to stand firm on boundaries and such, so that we don't allow these type of things to come into play, because what happens is the curse continues with our children. So, I remember I used to always try to tie the two in together to make it make more sense. But I've dealt with so much stuff within the last recent years, so I finally get it. If you don't put your foot down, create boundaries, remove negativity and all of that, you go into the cursing of the family to come. So the same with the love factor, as Marlene is talking about today. So yeah, we want to make sure we're telling our kids. We got to do it when they're young though, so that they absorb it. We don't want to wait until they're 16. Hey son, I love you, and we haven't been telling them their whole life.
Yeah, for me, it was something that, like you were just saying, and something that Realist just put in the chat. In my family, it wasn't said as often as other families would. It was just like, I love you, no questions asked for the most part. But it was shown by action. So I understand that, like, and I agree with what you were saying too, Shay. That people will say that I love you, I love you, I love you, and then their actions are toxic, or whatever, or hazardous to us, for to stop us from being close to the person. So it's not something you just say just because you say it, but I mean that it's important, because have this sort of discussion, because a lot of times I can say in my generation growing up, it wasn't something that was done at all. It was like weird to say the words I love you, because just your family just was thinking about providing for you. They weren't thinking about that there is also the emotional side, the mental, the spiritual. There's more to love than just the words. It's the actions, it's
Mhm.
listening, it's communication. It's so much things involved in it, but it has to be somebody to break it. And while my parents showed by their actions, I took that into my generation with me, and giving it to my nieces, my nephews, my sisters, and my brothers. I said, now we're going to start to communicate. We're going to check on each other at least once a week. So somebody has to start some new norms if it has not been
That's right.
enacted in your with your relatives. Somebody has to say, hey guys, how about once a week we just do a weekly check-in, just to say how everybody's week was. How about we start with that? And then next thing, let's get together, every 2 months, and do X, Y, and Z. And that's how you start to develop the closeness to even want to say the I love you, because the I love you just doesn't come out just like that. You have to work on it, you have to nurture it.
You sure have to nurture it. And we set our kids up for success too. Because I think about it like, my son is going to be somebody's husband one day. My daughter is going to be someone's wife someday. And if I lay the proper foundation on what love is, I don't want them to ever bend on that. Okay. Mommy has experienced some things that I think I've had enough of it for all of my kids. Okay. So I don't want them to experience certain things. But of course, we just have a role to play. I have a job to do. The way they turn out in life, we know that they go the way that they want to. There's nothing we can do but as far as that. But we have a job as parents to lay down a solid foundation when they're younger. Because again, like I mentioned, as long as I'm teaching you love and I'm raising you in love, I like to think a good 8 times out of 10 you'll be loving, and then you'll marry someone who reciprocates the same thing. And just think, by it trickling down throughout the family, what's going to happen when you run into problems in that marriage? I'm going to tell y'all right now, so many marriages and relationships fail because there's no love going as far back as the family tree. So when that man or woman has an issue and they're going and talking into that mom who doesn't know anything about love, she didn't teach them love, she didn't raise them in love. So when they go to get advice from the person who raised them, there are so many marriages, relationships ruined because they seek advice from people who were never loved properly themselves. You know, who, why would we not listen to our mom? Just think about it. So many people have forfeited great relationships because a toxic caregiver gave you advice. They weren't loved properly. So, yeah, I didn't mean to ramble on with that, but it kind of holds the glue together, instill in our kids, try your best to be that way, because again, they're going to run into issues, in their own families. And we want to make sure that we have a strong front, a strong support system, meaning even if you reach out to Grandma Helen or Auntie Gerald, okay, everybody has something loving to say to you. Because in a toxic family dynamic, what do they tell you to do, Marlene? Leave, be done with people. They tell you to worry about yourself. So yeah, and normally when you're teaching people to be selfish, it probably wasn't much love instilled in them.
Right. Right. I didn't know if Nexie wanted to say something before I say something. I don't, okay.
No, go ahead, Marlene.
Yeah. So I can say for myself, not growing up in that environment where communication was even something done. For us, it was like growing up, it was like communication meant yelling at somebody, or it was everything toxic, because that's just how you talk. Like there wasn't people who had like calm conversations. It was always like the voice was always like talking like they're making demands of you, or belittling you, things like that. And then it was always like being sarcastic at your expense, and being funny, making fun of you at your expense, and then portraying it like you're being sensitive. So that messed with my mind for a long time. So that's the reason why I really don't like sarcasm that much. It triggers me back to my childhood. So I don't like that stuff. So I try my best not to be sarcastic with other people, because you go right back to where you were before. So I always try my best to treat other people the way that I treat people now, not how I was treated. And it takes time, because sometimes when people get under your skin and do something to you, my automatic reaction is to go back where I was. But now, because I'm based in love, my foundation now is love, because I love myself, and because I love myself, I can love others. And I think that's what it takes too. We have to learn more how to love ourselves and be patient with ourselves, and also learn that everybody is in a space in their own with their own self. So there's some that I have to hold their hand, like my brothers and my sisters, because we all grew up in that same environment, and they're not handling it the way that I have. I've come through on the other side because I put in some work. So with them, I said, it's okay. I said, it's okay to tell me you love me. And they'll say, oh, come on. And I said, for real. I said, it's okay. I said, you can say you love me. It's not going to hurt you. It won't hurt you. It actually feels kind of good. So I even got them in that, I need a hug before you leave. It's those things that there has to be somebody to do that, so that you can have those sort of healthy things. And it's very good for your children to see that, brothers and sisters loving each other, or husband and wife, or, significant other. It's important for kids to see that affection, and not only just hear it, but see it as well. That's important.
Oh, yes, that's very, very necessary. And we've had that conversation before. Oh my gosh, it is so important that children watch their parents love one another. We are the example of what love is supposed to look like. And kids shouldn't see us arguing with one another, bickering with one another. Now, don't get me wrong, there may be things that come up sporadically, but as adults, we have to try to find this common ground where we can lay it to rest, for a different time or something. Okay, we some people just have complete lack of control, lack of respect of self. But we have to try our best to not go there. I mean, I'm sure I've made my husband a mad before, and he's, Lord have mercy, we're going to talk about some of the things he did to me, but we have to make sure that we still are setting a proper example in front of our kids. That's why when it comes down to deciding whether or not, a marriage is going to remain, or, a family unit is going to stay together, there's so many factors that come into play, because believe it or not, sometimes the number one reason for relationships to call it quits is your children are watching. And I hope that doesn't go over anybody's head. Sometimes the number one reason for you calling quits is that child is watching. And what a child watches her mom endure, that's what she's going to endure. What a child watches her dad do to her mom, she's going to sit and let somebody do the same thing to her. And then, of course, vice versa. So, yeah, kids need to see the love, not just hear it. I see it a lot, even in grown people, oh, well, I love you. And it's just empty I love yous. Like, I hear those all the time. I don't call and check on you. I don't care about your well-being. But when I do talk to you, I'm going to tell you I love you. To me, sometimes that's an empty I love you. It's just like you were saying, Marlene, you got to reach out, set aside time. Hey, y'all, let's start doing this on such and such date. Because even when in the beginning of going through some of the hardest times in my life, I remember we set aside dinner night. Like, I don't care what you're doing, you be here at the table at such and such time, we're going to have dinner as a family. Try to do something to incorporate this, like I said, a strong front for our kids. Because before they listen to us, y'all, they're watching us. So we just have to be careful with that.
Yeah, you do. You have to be so careful, and somebody has to be the person that says, we're going to start something new. And I know that it can be uncomfortable a lot of times, very uncomfortable, because it was for me, after my parents passed away, to start, even having some communication, like, how are you feeling? Do you feel sad? Do you feel good today? And that was hard for me to do because we weren't used to having that communication. But you have to learn to develop the relationship so you have the closeness that you'll want to talk and you'll want to show affection and express how you feel about people that you actually care about.
That's right. That's right. Because you'll have the hardest time turning around and doing it to your own children. And that's what sucks the worst, is a child being hurt and crushed. And, for a parent to not even realize, oh, wow, I'm doing the exact same thing to them that was done to me. It's kind of so hard to believe that people don't think about that. But then I realize that it's inner trauma. It's not something that you can literally just turn off. Just like you said, Marlene, you did the work. You did the work. So you're different from many of your siblings. And see, that's the difference. That's the common denominator there. Some people are going to be willing to put in the work to become better humans, to become better people, to not let their situations get the best of them. Because one thing I learned is we all go through some very traumatic times. But it is something where you can get two children from the exact same household. One turns out wonderfully and the other one doesn't. And they both were the same type trauma was inflicted on them both. That means they handled their traumas differently. One went this way with it and one went that way. So yeah, it's just so important. Love is just people need to get into the Bible. I'm sorry. The Bible is the only thing that tells us exactly what love is. Love is not what the world says. Love isn't because you pay my bill, you answer the phone when I call, we go on dates, you front me money, you cash at me. That's not love. Those are loving acts. Everything I just mentioned is a loving act. But
Yeah.
what is love? If you're mad at me, are we still going on a date? If you're mad at me, you still gonna pay my bill? You get what I mean? So yeah, love is a lot different and it's more profound than what we're taught out here in the world. But if you get in that word, honey, I'm telling you, that's a different kind of love.
And everybody has to receive love how they need, and that's something that I learned. I had to learn to stop being selfish with my love. I had to stop being expecting people to give me love the way I wanted love. I had to let people give love how they could do it, and the same thing for
Right.
them. I had to give people love the way they needed to get love. So this has been an amazing discussion, and thank you so much, Shay Love, and also Puzzle Pieces for coming up and adding to this discussion. I'm about to set up for the members only after show. So members, come on over. Thank you, Shay. Thank you, Puzzle Pieces. I really appreciate you and everybody. I know that it can be hard for us to express love to people that we care about, but we got to put in the work because that's how we keep healthy relationships and not have the toxic and broken ones. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys at the after show, members, and everybody else. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye,
All
guys.
right. See you in a minute. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, is Nexie coming back up? Were you coming back up, Miss Nexie?
I am so sorry. Yeah, I had to take a phone call, a quick phone
Oh,
call.
it's
You
okay.
know what I'm going through right now, so I
I know
had to
what you're
drop.
going through. It's okay.
Sorry,
If you have
Shay. I'm so
something to,
sorry.
it's okay. It's no problem. If you have something that you want to add, I'll go on mute and let you say what.
Well, well, I guess the only thing we have left, I have left to say is that sometimes, even if it's difficult for us to get to the point in our families and around friends, for the word to be said with meaning. I think that trying as hard as we can so that the next generation doesn't have to have the same fears or or have the same inabilities to say that word and to mean it. I think we have to try and try and try as much as we can, not to give up because the other person is not, saying it back to us right away. But we just have to continue to do so because for us, sometimes maybe it's a little too late because we're grown and it's harder. But we got to think about the little ones, the next generation for us. So just continue to say it and continue to show it. Make sure that in your family is a norm. It's not just an occasional thing that you say.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's so important, Nexie. Um, what I can say for my family, I'm not speaking for everybody. What I don't like is the only time when people will say "I love you" is in tragedy, like somebody's in the hospital or someone passed. That's not the only time that you should say "I love you." And I'm speaking for my family and the things that has happened to us. I don't like that. Like, why does it take a major thing happening to be reminded that we love each other?
Yeah, I also, I had to also understand, like, um, as I was understanding how because for me it was a normal thing. We grew up with that word, right, being shown and being said. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. But when I came here, I had to learn that here, saying I love you has a big significance. For people, when you say that and they have to say it to you, it gives them like this anxiety because it's something that that the word means commitment, right? It makes them vulnerable. So I had to learn that a lot of people here, it was very difficult for them to say that because I guess they weren't committed to the friendship, or they probably thought it made them feel weak or something. I don't know. Or put them in a vulnerable position. So I had to learn that, and when I started going through college, and I had friends from other countries expressing that word wasn't a norm for them either, because they grow up in a lot of negativity and a lot of criticism, right? So for them, criticism was kind of like showing they love you.
Yes.
So it was so
Yeah,
weird for me.
it's like, well, I can say the same thing. Sarcasm in my family was like "I love you." It was always like throwing cheap shots at you, like, the what do they call that? The backhanded compliment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
And
like
I
it.
and I had a lot of friends too that, their parents, criticism was their parents' way to express a positive kind of like a positive emotion. Like, if I criticize you, it's because I love you, right? I was like, that
Yeah.
no, that's I don't think that's right. I don't think that's exactly what that means. But if that's how you grew up, so for them, getting for them to say, next year I love you, it was a big deal for me because after a year or so of being in the same classes and me saying those words as I got to know them, when they said it back to me, it had a lot more meaning than I thought it would,
Yeah.
because at that point they meant it, and they knew what it meant. And the thing is, a lot of times, in our cultures, right, it's a cultural thing, it's a cultural phenomenon, that criticizing you, putting you down, it means that because I'm in there trying to tell you what is so wrong with you, right, not the fact that you're wrong for saying those things, mom or dad
Right.
or whoever else. But by me doing this, I'm showing you how much I love you.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't care. Otherwise, I wouldn't
Yeah.
care, right, Marlene? Otherwise,
Yeah. Well, how I had to approach it, because my father didn't grow up having his father, so he didn't really have the example. So I had to literally show him. I would take his hand and put it around my shoulder. I'm like, "This is what daddies do, okay?" And daddy's holding hands, and that, like, I mean, I walked him through all of it, and he would just be looking at me like, "How come none of the?" He says, "Well, nobody else wanted that." I said, "Well, they're not Marlene." This is what Marlene wants. And this is what I need you to do for Marlene, because everybody is different. Some don't need it, and maybe they needed it, but they didn't have the voice to speak up and say what they wanted. But I am not that way. If I'm not getting what I want, I'll tell you. And then if you don't continue to give it to me after I've asked repeated times, then I'm done.
and yeah, exactly. And I've had friends, that often tell me that because of their upbringing, they always say, like, I have a hard time, now that my parents are older, right? Now that, I'm the adult, I have my family, I have a hard time expressing that, the saying that I love you word to them. Um, and I tell them, normally it's because you haven't been, told that. You haven't been, you weren't brought up saying I love you by your parents. So now that they're older and they're expecting you, because that's what happens as they get older, they expect you to, to tell them you love them, to show them that you love them, but they have not taught you how to say those words. So for a lot of people, if you don't grow up, and this is what I tell a lot of parents too, say it as often as you can, because when you get older and you need to hear those words, because you didn't bring them up that way, they're not going to be able to say it back to you. They're going to be
Yeah.
just like you, show you with things, right? Show you with actions. Here, look, I'm paying your mortgage, or I'm here to visit you.
Yep.
So we all need it, at one point or another. We all need to hear that word. It brings so much joy to people that, it's nice to be said with meaning, not just to say it.
Yeah.
Because I also know that a lot of times, people, cannot say it because, sometimes they have come from very toxic relationships, right? Or negative family upbringing. And people cannot express it because of that.
Yeah. It's like when you're so broken and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have like the norms, like you're not on the same playing field with everybody else. It's like you have to work on learning everything, because it's like you have to learn about communication, affection, being respectful of one another. It's a lot of things that you all are simultaneously learning together, but it's okay because it takes time to heal those wounds. But at least I'm grateful that before my parents transitioned, that they both left saying "I love you," not only to me but their grandkids and their children. So I feel like I was a bridge in the family to aid for some healing for a lot of things, and I'm
Yeah,
grateful for that.
exactly. And I'm so happy that you were able to do that because, how many times do we waste the time of, I'm not going to say it. If they don't say it first, I'm not going to say it. We waste that time, that precious time, because we've said this before, Marlene, here with you on when we talk, that we're only in control of us, right? So if we stay stubborn, if we stay, I'm not going to say it until they say it, we may be losing precious time. When your parents, transition, like you said, you have that joy. I said it, I did it. They heard it, they were able to say it, that joy of you being able to break those boundaries, and allow them to probably express something they felt, but wasn't, they weren't really knowing how to do it. So we have to make sure that we're breaking, those chains, those cycles of not expressing exactly how we feel. And I don't mean just negative emotion; I mean positive emotions. A lot of times, since we're not brought up that way, it's not possible. But you can do it if you work on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that that's so amazing, Nexi. You can do it, and we don't understand how much we bring closeness and togetherness and support and building self esteem and the warmth in the family. Because I'm telling you, growing up, there was so much coldness in our family, and I'm not saying it as no shots against my parents, but when sometimes they didn't grow up knowing things, they could only give from their point of reference, so they were only doing the
Hmm.
best that they could. But then here I was the child. That's the reason I was born. I was born to bring love and sunshine into the family. I was like, no, this ain't gonna work. I was like, you hold hands, you do this. You just see me, a little kid, 6 years, and you say I'm sorry. But
and and
somebody has to do that in the family.
and it's true. A lot of times we struggle saying that word because um, our parents have been the people that have regulated all of that we do, right? Because they're the ones that brought us into this world. They're the ones that have taught us everything we know, because they're the regulators, as they call. And so I will have to say that as a parent, right? I took it upon me, and my dad did too, and I think that's passed on. I took it upon me, to make sure that the emotions I was conveying to my children were the right emotions. I was the
Right.
one that was regulating their entire life because I'm the one who was bringing them up. So I make sure that the I love you went on everything, that even if they did something
Yep.
bad, even if they made a mistake, before I said anything, I love you, right? So I'm going to have to say this. And I still do that to this day. You know how
Yeah.
much I love you, but I'm going to have to say something because what you did is not right. So you have to, it's your responsibility as a parent. That's what I have to say. So if we grow up with parents that cannot express or don't know how to express that or how to convey that message, then we are going to have, to take it upon ourselves to do that, something about it, because they never taught us. That's their burden of proof, right? They have to prove that to us, and they have to teach us. So it is hard, and I you know, congratulations, Marlene, because I know that that was probably the a very hard task for
Very,
you to
it's
take.
very frustrating, and I don't know why, but that's just me. I cannot be around people who are like ignoring one another. I was like, you like one come in the room, then the other one leave, this one, that one, and then like talking about each other to other people, but not talking to the person you need to talk to. I don't like those things, and with our relatives in your relationship, with your siblings, with your friends, is something that we have to continuously work on becoming a more loving individual so that we can give love to others. So I'm gonna
Exactly,
stop.
exactly.
Oh, go ahead, Nexie.
No. I said exactly. No, you're right. On point. Everything you're saying.
Yeah,
It's on point.
thank you so much. Well, we come to the point in the show where we're gonna stop right here. And we're going to go over to members only. So I put the link on the community tab, members, and everybody who is here. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope that everybody who is here, that you are having loving relationships with your family, relatives, in your romantic relationship, and with your friends. And if not, work on it, because the people who matter will try their best to put forth an effort. I think that's so important. Thank you, Nexie.
Thank you, Marlene, for having me.
I'll see you guys in the after show, members, and everyone else. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Be encouraged, be inspired, be yourself, you will survive. Just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
Forgive me, I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough now. What about you? I forgive me, I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough.